Hi, I'm Roy. Welcome to my Yard of Random Books channel. Hello to any new people. So, the deal is, I bought a bunch of books that are sold purely as shabby decoration, but I'm reading them anyway, even though they're kind of not meant to be read. I mean, not in the sort of forbidden books, Necronomicon kind of sense, but they're seen as being good only for decoration, but I'm giving them a bit of a read. And the one I've chosen to read next is this green item, the Gentle Art of Cookery. So, yes, it's a recipe book. The Gentle Art of Cookery with 750 recipes by Mrs. C.F. Leyel and Miss Olga Hartley. So, these folks, Leyel was a herbalist and she founded a herb society and also the Culpeper's herb shops. And I remember seeing one of those in Brighton in the 70s. So kind of quite pioneering woman. And Olga Hartley, all I can find out about her so far is she had a novel published called Anne. So here's a cookery book that came out in 1925, and this is a revised edition in the Phoenix Library that came out in 1929. So, 1925. Lots of stuff that's in this book was quite groundbreaking then, to the point where it's actually still in print and it's seen as a bit of a classic because she was talking about things like vegetables in season, cooking with flowers, stuff like that, stuff you hadn't really got in the more boiled beef and carrots era of previous books of, I suppose, Mrs. Beeton and that kind of thing. So it's quite innovative. Um, Reprint edition, normally I'm scathing about these, about saying how that makes them valueless, but it's actually the Phoenix Library, with a cool Phoenix logo also impressed into the front, which is, when you think about it, a pretty good emblem for a set of reprints. You know, the Phoenix rising from the ashes, their reprint books coming back at you. Um, it would be awesome if the publishers actually burned a copy of the original book in a kind of ritual to help create the reprint one. That probably didn't happen, but nevertheless, it's interesting. So it would have been a uniform set of books. So, like the whole library idea is, you get that collector set, got to catch them all kind of thing. I've got some of these green spine Phoenix books. Let's get more. They advertise the rest of them in the back, and you've got a mixture, non-fiction, um, Aldous Huxley, Arnold Bennett, Hilaire Belloc, Lytton Strachey. So lots of kind of popular thinkers of the times, but also some plays by A. Milne. Got some plays there. Um, More Huxley, fiction stuff, short stories. Um, Proust gets an airing. G.K. Chesterton. So it's a fairly sort of relatively highbrow set of books. So kind of interesting to see a cookery book in the midst of that lot. So here's all the intellectuals and sort of thought-provoking plays and fiction, and now you're getting a cookery book. So it's intellectual food, and that's really what we find. That's what makes it quite charming. You get little literary quotes at the beginning of the sections, um, and some sort of literary allusions. Um, and lots and lots of stuff about vegetables. You're getting more vegetable action than you would expect to in a 1920s cookery book. I've been looking through it with a view to deciding on something I could actually make, and like a lot of old cookery books, you don't really get full blow by blow instructions. Cookery books I use now will have exact timings, exact amounts of ingredients, that kind of thing. Here it's very sketchy. You can see how short each recipe is. The kind of assumption is the techniques of cooking, so they just sort of have to point you in the right direction. Um, some of the recipes, they look as if they're going to be really simple, things like a mushroom omelette, Do we need a recipe for that? A lot of time it's like the recipe you'd expect with the addition of either a spoonful of sherry or some mashed up. Um, oh God, my brain's been fried, literally fried in the heat. Not fried as in cooking with brains, although that is the kind of thing you would find in a cookery book of this vintage. Um, oh, those salty fish things that you get on pizzas. You know what I mean. Those feature a lot in this, often ground up. Um, and you also get things that seem impossibly rich or just bizarre. Chicken custard. Am I going to make chicken custard? I am not. Shredded chicken in a custard. Just not right. I was tempted by Sussex cream, being from Sussex, but again, pint of milk. I know I can't say the word milk properly, but just bear with me on that. 1 pint of milk, 4 eggs, 1 ounce of gelatine, half a wine glass full of sherry, 5 ounces of sugar, a quarter of a pound of macaroons, glacé cherries, half an orange, and cream. You know, it's I could make it and then, but would probably die as a result of eating it. Um, it's interesting that, I mean, I said it doesn't really give precise instructions, but it has got things like a section called the alchemist's cupboard with a long list of ingredients you could have in your store cupboard, which is pretty much the sorts of things you'd have today. So it's a bit like I feel that it's sort of training the aspiring middle class people on how to do slightly fancier cookery with an eye on the natural world as well, and sort of, you know, authentic ingredients and freshness. A section I particularly liked was, you know, the sections are called things like sauces, vegetables, fish, meat, the Arabian Nights. So there's a section of recipes relating to the Arabian Nights. Basically an idea for a menu for an Arabian Nights themed evening you could have with a bunch of dishes. Now, like a lot of people, I know the Arabian Nights. Generally, you know, pretty much everybody's probably got an idea about Sinbad and Aladdin. I did actually read loads of Arabian Nights stories in this old edition that my mum had when I was a kid. It's not in the best condition as a book, but is fantastic, in literally fantastic. This set of Arabian Nights was edited by a guy called the Reverend Townsend, who, as well as putting the stories together, had the aim to purify the text, that the most innocent-minded maiden may read them aloud to her brothers and sisters without scruple or compunction. So obviously there's like a real Arabian Nights with some racier content that needed to be purified for maidens to read it. Um, you know, I like the idea of the Arabian Nights. So Arabian Nights recipes, let's have a look at them. Um, and the one I thought I could possibly make, Moncazina, an Eastern hors d'oeuvre, brought from the East by Anatole France. So there's a name I vaguely knew. I guess it's probably pronounced more like Anatole France. A French author, was apparently super famous at the beginning of the century. Anatole France wasn't his born name. He took that on, so I guess it's a bit of a Captain America kind of name. And rang a bell. I thought I'd seen his name mentioned in the Ballantine adult fantasy series. So that was a series of 69 books, came out in the 1970s, edited by Lynn Carter, obviously from Ballantine, the publishers, keen to extend their, you know, they had a huge success with Tolkien, wanted more, so loads of fantasy books came out, often reprints of old stuff. With Lynn Carter editing them, I could do like 50 videos about those. Comment if you want, one video about them perhaps. Anyway, I had read that Anatole France several of his books were intended by Lynn Carter to be in the series. It would have been if the series hadn't stopped. But he did publish a couple of short pieces. So in Golden Cities Far, a short story collection with a beautiful title. There's a story called The Olivier's Brag, and in Great Short Novels of Adult Fantasy 1, with basically a set of novellas. One of those is by France as well, The Kingdom of the Dwarfs. So I would have read these when I was like 15. I reread the Olivier's Brag, the shorter one, and made a start on Kingdom of the Dwarfs as well. And it's kind of erudite, witty sort of stuff. So probably a bit of an ancestor to Terry Pratchett, I suppose. I mean, these seem great lengths to go to decide whether to eat a guy's salad recipe. But if you're going to do salad business with somebody, like to know where they're coming from. So Anatole France, back to the recipe. Take one or more oranges and cut them in slices crossways. Not too shabby there as an instruction, knew what that meant. Peel the slices and remove the pips and white in the middle of the round. That was quite fiddly because you get those sort of chewy bits in the middle, but probably worth doing so you don't have chewy bits in the middle. So we got some slices of oranges. Arrange a bed of slices of orange at the bottom of the dish and cover with finely chopped onion. So at this moment I was tempted to use my safe word and bail out on the whole process, because onion, oranges does seem to be a bit of a weird mixture. Also note the lack of precision, it just says onion. I chose a red onion because they're the kind of milder kind. On the onion, place a bed of stoned black olives. Okay, so it's turning into, if surrealists made a pizza, perhaps this is what you'd be getting. And sprinkle them with red pepper, salt and olive oil. So red pepper could be several things, but the word sprinkle made me think we're talking something like cayenne pepper, so that's what I used. Salt and olive oil, and there were my Bunkazina Eastern hors d'oeuvres in an Arabian Nights themed set of recipes, which I gave to Jenny to try. So we have a live test, as she wasn't expecting these to arrive, so there's a bit of a reaction video coming up.
So this is the Arabian Nights Starties.
Okay, so there aren't really many recipes in this that I would make, but I like it as a book. I like the what it is, a bit of a social document of the times. I like the pocket size green packaging. I could, if I came across more of these Phoenix editions, maybe I'd start a little set. So I had a little row of green spy. I'm getting corrupted by the whole idea of books as decoration now, aren't I? But yeah, it's a lovely object. So the final fate of this book is to be kept. That's me. Be fantastic if you would hit the subscribe button, because then I would have subscribers in increasing numbers. Other than that, I will just say goodbye.